I hope now that I say this out loud, he's not bricking. However, the consistency in Salamangreat is just off the charts now that it has Salamangreat of Fire, triple Salamangreat Gazelle, and so many ways to get into the combo. But I think the first cards that Max von Eversel picked up weren't that great.
So we see Salamangreat Spinny, of course a classic one of the first cards.
There we go, the 5th card, Gazelle!
This is the 2-card combo that every Salamangreat player loves to see in their hands, Spinny plus Gazelle, and with the addition of the new Link monster, Salamangreat Pyro Phoenix, Great Phoenix, when you relink it, the whole theme and gimmick of Salamangreat, of course, is when you make a Link monster in Salamangreat, if you make that Link monster with its own name, typically through the field spell, you get a bunch of bonus effects, and this one you're able to search out any Salamangreat card, notably, from your deck.
Yeah, Raging Phoenix it is, and we see there's already a Salamangreat Roar in the graveyard, so Raging Phoenix could then search for Rage, so it looks like Max might be able to just set up both cards here, both trap cards, which is so powerful, because also it's a well situation in the meta game right now. You can play around Triple Tactic Talents, you can play around Triple Tactics Frost as well, but just relying on trap cards and not going for monster effects. That's really strong.
So this is a really cool interaction that we're going to see here. The Salamangreat Weasel is one of the new support cards, and what that means is that you can actually give your opponent there it is, gives your opponent the Salamangreat of Fire, and in the process you get to draw a card. Now you might think like giving your opponent a card isn't really good. Why would you want to give your opponent a free body? Well, typically this can turn off a lot of cards like Infinite Impermanence, Catch Stealer cards, although maybe not super popular right now. There's a lot of just interactions in Yu-Gi-Oh! That require you to control a monster.
Yeah, totally. And there is Mirage Stelio as well that got linked away, and it immediately bounces back the Salamangreat of Fire to the hand. Salamangreat of Fire is such a powerful addition. It is a 1-card link for it. It's also a 1-card OTK with only fire monsters, because previously this deck relied heavily on Access Code Talker to finish games, but that is not the case anymore. In fact, Max is not even playing the card.
Not even running it. I have his deck list here in front of me. Second copy of Raging Phoenix has hit the field, therefore is able to use its effect, search out the Rage, and another back row has been set. And even though this does not look super impressive, this does not look like a combo field, but it has 2 so powerful trap cards. And I mean, Rage usually was at best destroying 2 cards with like a Sunlight Wolf there on the field, but now it's 4 cards with that. But that's a good counter, and I think we have to negate that, right? There's no way we can let that go through.
So that's a really good card. This format in general, Change of Heart, stealing in general is particularly strong just now, especially with the popularity of Unchained. Typically, you don't want to let your opponent hit the grave with a lot of their monsters. And in this case, it just acts as a nice little one-to-one interaction with Roar, because the activation requirement of Roar is that you must control a Salamangreat monster.
Yeah, you had to protect that, and now we are revealing what we are onto. So Matteo normal summoning Spright Rat, and there of course is the potential of also a Spright Carrot. So Max will be careful here on when to activate the Rage, because as soon as Carrot hits the field, it might be too late to activate it.
I think that I have seen Infinite Impermanence in his opening hand as well, so he could actually go for a Rage play, and then when the opponent tributes for Carrot, he can also chain the Impermanence.
True, so we search out the starter. And we have not even talked about the deck of Matteo just yet. It's Spright, and I mean Spright, of course, kind of an all-time classic now as well, right? Salamangreat has been around for so long, but Spright kind of taking the same route, being in all kind of top cards and all kind of tournaments for so long now, and it still is here at the top tables.
It's a really versatile deck. It just is able to adapt so well to different types of metagames with the Power of the Elements released last year. You had, of course, it was contending with Tier Lament. And just people have evolved and adapted the deck over the course of the last year to the different metagames. And we've seen, before getting ahead of ourselves too quickly with the side deck options, but things like Mannequin Cat allow you to have so many different options with the Spright strategy.
Yeah, it just feels like when you don't really know what to expect from a tournament, you can just safely bring this, and will be good versus everything. After this round, we're also going to have a look at the metagame breakdown from this tournament, and then we will see that maybe Spright was a really good call, because you couldn't really expect what would be very popular here. And there is now the time from Max to activate the Rage, and it will resolve no more monsters left for Matteo, excuse me. But I think we have not even used the starter yet, right?
Yeah, the Spright starter here is going to be the last point of extension that Matteo can do here, especially after using that all-important normal summon. I am surprised Max let it get that far. I mean, he could have risked a red, like you said, but perhaps he felt kind of insulated because of that Imperm.
And there's the starter.
There
and of
is the
course,
Ash Blossom, which is going to hit really hard. Now he's opening up himself to thrust and talents as well. But now that the starter was ashed, of course you can go for a talent. This seems to be a talent draw too, and even though activating a possible Pot of Greed seems crazy strong, this is a desperation play here, because usually you want to take away the big Link 4 of your opponent. But what are you going to do with this in this situation? I think that he's just fishing for a Kashtira Fenrir right here.
Yeah, that's a good point. He is playing a Fenrir, and that would really be the only other card he can use, because the normal summon has been used, there's no level 2 on the field to extend, and there's no starter. Yep, there it is.
And now Max has so much follow-up. He added back the Gazelle, and he also bounced back the Salamangreat of Fire, so there are at least like 10 OTKs that he has right now. The only thing that he still needs...
All of them, please, Leo. Now.
Okay, you caught me off guard.
Your time started.
The only thing he needs is the Jaguar right now to just recycle the Salamangreat of Fire, go for another Link with the same name, and then add a Will, and then send this Will away to summon back 4 monsters, and then you get plenty of damage.
Will of the Salamangreat is such a cool interaction in this deck, but yeah, there's just so many ways to OTK here. Matteo recognizes that there is no other hand trap that he can use to disrupt this, and that's going to go to 1-0 for Max.
Impressive performance there by the Salamangreat deck, not only having the double trap setup, but also backing it up by the also powerful and also popular for so long Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. And funnily enough, also fire monsters, so he can even add back that Ash Blossom. He could have just added back the Ash Blossom now this turn, but he didn't even need that time. He just immediately went for game there.
I also really want to point out that he waited for the perfect Ash Blossom, because there was the Nimble Angler, and I saw that he considered ashing it, but then quickly thought, hey, if I ash the starter and rage away everything here, there are no plays. Possibly a Kashtira Fenrir, but if it truly was an impermanence in his hand, it would have been... It would have not even mattered.
Yeah, it would have not been that crazy. And I think overall, you will love that, Leo, but I think Salamangreat is actually pretty well positioned into a lot of factors in the metagame right now. Because, for example, we see cards like Anti-Spell Fragrance, and this deck is not super reliant on spell cards overall. Dimensional Barrier is a card. There's not that hard of a hit with this card either to the deck, because you're mainly Link summoning. So I think it's actually quite well situated. And also, as we said, Triple Tactics Talents and Thrust is everywhere. You can also play around that. Book of Eclipse, there's so many cards you're just dodging with the deck basically completely, which is really nice.
Yeah, it's a really good mid-range deck in the same similar vein as Spright, where you can bring it to an event and you're not going to have any particularly bad matchups. And I think that's the strongest thing about Salamangreat. It adapts really well to the metagame, and there isn't really too many blowout cards. You really need your graveyard, and that all-important Arise Heart forbidding means that the graveyard is now back on the menu.
Yeah,
also
it is
really important. It increases the consistency of the deck, because Signet Mining now can always be activated, because it requires you to send a card from the hand to the graveyard per cost, which was not possible under Kashtira Arise Heart.
Yeah, but one thing I see in the side deck of Matteo is going to be the good old... Wait, is there Ibli? Was there Ibli in the main deck already? I think I saw Ibli somewhere in his deck. No, there is no Ibli, so that is actually good, because I don't know how he would be outing the Ibli, right? Is there a way for Salamangreat to get rid of the Ibli just with Engine?
Splash Mage?
Oh, yeah, true, there's Splash Mage, fair.
Isn't it Lingeribo?
Do we play Lingery? Do we have
I think the only non-fire that he's running is actually the Splash Mage.
Yeah, there is no Lingeribo, no. So that would have been interesting. Maybe Pit Knight early as well, though.
Yeah.
Oh, you mentioned the OTK earlier about the Fury of Fire sort of combo. He is playing the Proxy Magician line, so
actually crazy. You're trying to summon out the Salamangreat of Raging Fire, then you're adding Will. Use Will, look at your Link 4 that is summoned with itself as a name, and then you summon 4 monsters back from the graveyard, go for Pit Knight early and Proxy F Magician, use Proxy F Magician to fusion summon with the Salamangreat of Raging Fire, go into the Violet Chimera, which was like the OG OTK strategy for Salamangreat, and because of Pit Knight early, you can reduce the attack of a monster your opponent controls to 0, which means that Chimera is going to deal double damage on a 0 attack monster going up to 5.
It sounds like you want to be able to go sit there right now, so maybe we can
I am ready. I am so ready. I have my Salamangreat deck just right there. It's like 10 meters away from me. I'm ready.
All right, let's head back to the tables as our players are now ready to undergo for round number 2. Game number 2, sorry.
Okay, really good that you guys stopped me there because I was so caught up in the Salamangreat combos. I
No, please continue.
absolutely
Tell us more.
forgot that this game existed.
Understandable. Not for the first time, Leo, but one more card that is also really coming back through the absence of a Rysat in the format is Forbidden Droplet, and also found its way into the main deck of Max van Neversale. And what can I say? This card is really good into Spright fields consisting Melfi Caddy, because that is the Melfi, that is the Spright variant that his opponent has chosen, and there comes the start from Matteo. So he has a way to play, even though it's not the most powerful start ever. But blue is blue, and blue is nice.
So I noticed that Max has actually picked up 2 hand traps, Ash and Imperm.
Oh, wow.
And one of the most, greatest advantages of Spright is that it really does cut through hand traps quite easily. And especially in a situation like this where you've got just any normal summon level 2, there isn't really a lot of sort of interactions that stop that, and so you're able to just kind of like play through Ash, and you feel like compelled to use Ash in situations like this because, well, I mean, you can go for a red early, Gigantic prevents Nibiru.
If you want to go crazy against the Melfi Spright deck, because I've played it for a long time as well, you can use those cards to play through the field. You can Ash the Melfi Caddy effect, and you can use the Impermanence on something else.
That's what I thought.
That way, you are not even opening yourself up to possible talents.
I think holding Ash is definitely the correct play versus that. Imperming for sure, but just playing around. Ooh, Gigantic actually is neat because it only needs to detach from any kind of monster, and there is still an Exceed monster because there are materials underneath it, so we can still resolve the effect of the Gigantic Sprighty, even though it is booked there. But we cannot use it for Link summoning or anything now, which is interesting.
True. And it traded with a Book of Moon, which is really powerful going first.
True. Oh, but there is the Jet in hand still, so we can still extend from here on.
How did we summon the red here?
Through the Gigantic.
Oh, right, yeah, because the book, sorry. And now the Jet gets to go into the starter, or you can potentially, depending on how good your hand is, you can maybe go for a double cross line, or you can search out the Smashers. Really good, important interruptions, I guess. Salamangreat specifically because you remove them from play rather than hitting the graveyard.
Totally. And interestingly enough, Matteo is main decking both Double Cross and Smashers. Smashers usually is in the main deck, but also running Double Cross in the main deck is kind of interesting because usually that's a card you would see in the side deck as a going first option. And now we see it in his hand because he just adds it with the Jet.
I love Spright as well. Those are 2 of my favorite decks. I'm really happy right now.
Yeah, and still more extending to be able to be done here because we do have the Sprint access next. So, yeah, a lot to still play. Oh, okay,
wow.
Right. Spright
all engine here. And those are the best. When your opponent has hand traps, as you were saying, you just want engine because it can play through those so easily. Oh, but we're linking away the rat here.
Oh, this is a really strong Ash Blossom on the Nimble Angler in the graveyard.
We are even going to Ash the Sprint. That is
Foolish Burial Punish.
Yeah, I quite like the Ash Blossom being used on the Nimble monster rather than the Sprint itself. That way you just kind of get it out of the deck and you know that they don't have a way to extend. But, I mean, yeah, Foolish Burial is something you can potentially
But now we could play around Talons so far, but now it happens. But this is some powerful cards over there. There's Gazelle already and the Circle to grab it worst case.
You have to send away the Circle. This is... Okay.
It really doesn't matter, right? That's the issue, you know? You've got 3 different names basically, so the spell can always get the other name, but Gazelle plus Spinny is the best combo.
The Carrot maybe is
exactly. That's the reason probably he just got rid of the monster instead, because the Circle can be negated. But that would have been the last Nimble Angler of Matteo if he would have just sent that to a graveyard and ashed it in the graveyard, because the other one is sitting underneath the Gigantic Spright. So I really would have liked just cutting out the access to that completely.
Yeah, so should there be any follow-up here, if Max can't break this field, then we do have the option to just, have that Nimble engine again. So there's the Circle here. Let's see if we're going to try and carrot this.
This is a tough call, because you would have to tribute the Spright Sprint, and then your Double Cross is not that strong anymore because you want to take over the monster. So yeah, Matteo makes the decision to just let it go through here.
And now the Circle is a valuable resource in the graveyard, because you can always send something else with Gazelle and add back with the Sunlight Wolf the Circle.
Does Matteo have any cards left in hand, or is it all he got that he has there on the field?
It's all he has now. Now the Carrot is not really doing anything anymore if you are not...
if you decide not to negate the one spell trap card he's activating, that's kind of not the greatest card there. I was honestly I think it was interesting that he decided to just keep the Carrot over the Rat, right? Because that Imperm was already gone, so an Ash Blossom was way more likely there.
But I mean, a take of the Salamangreat of Fire is now going to be really, really strong right here. The question is, what else does he have in it?
Oh, we're trying to get our own Spright Red back to the field.
Ah, we are bouncing.
But that will
that makes sense.
That's
that makes
great.
a lot of sense.
That's fantastic.
That's a really neat line there. So now you've actually created 2 disruptions just with your 1 double cross.
I really, really like that, for sure. And we still have the carrot, so any kind of extension that could still be there in Max's hand would be... Wow, that was strong.
Well played by Matteo.
Totally.
I was thinking if there was a possible Silent Mining in hand that discarded the spinny.
Yeah, that would have been really devastating because then you could actually trigger the Gazelle.
Yeah.
But generally with Salamangreat, if you remove the normal summon, it's kind of hard to push through that.
Now they have Weasel, which also helps, which is also a extender, but you still need 2 Salamangreat.
Yeah, you do need a bit of setup for that here. We're going to go for the second Gigantic of the game, and it is boosted by double its attack just because it uses a non-main deck level/rank Link 2 underneath as a material, and it shouldn't be too difficult here for Matteo to push through this. 1 unknown in the hand. There's a world where he... Oh, okay, it was Droll and Lockward he drew for turn.
But this is already a lot of damage. It is 3,200. Oh, we are
he's actually
tributing
going to
this.
negate it.
Absolutely makes sense right here because you're going for the jet and you're searching for a possible... It smells like Gamma Burst here. Oh, okay, it's not. It doesn't.
Your nose is completely off once again, Leo. And I was just looking through the list. That's very surprising, but he's not even running Gamma Burst overall. He decided to play Double Cross and Smashers, but no Gamma Burst, which is very, very odd to me because that card is making OTKing so easy.
There is lines to OTK, but it's significantly more simple when you just activate Gamma Burst.
Yeah, I mean, is that game on the field already? It could be, right?
I think it would have been game if he didn't tribute the blue.
That's funny.
Oh, is he off game by like 200?
Might be. It's
right, let's get the numbers added in here.
Let's do some math. So that's 32 plus 16, so that's 48. Then Jet comes in, that's 61. I think we're missing game here, honestly.
Yeah, although admittedly, even if it's not game, we have a lot of resources with Matteo's Smashers being set with the negate of the red. So with just a couple cards left from Max, it's going to be quite hard to really come back from this. Let's see if you can pick anything up to try and crack this.
Night Beam.
Yeah, that's
that's a card he's looking for sure.
That's a great card in Speed Duel.
Okay, Link 2, so do we go for another sprint here? We do, and now it actually is hurting Max that he decided to Ash the Spright Sprint instead of the Angler. That Angler would have not even been in the deck anymore, but now it is there, bringing out 2 Beavers.
I wonder what the advantage was to Ash the Sprint immediately. Maybe because the Angler wasn't the best draw?
Yeah, I think like sometimes the logic is you want to just leave your opponent with dead draws, but at the same time, you know, I think removing that resource was really important because generally the game isn't going to last that long where that would even matter per se. Yeah. So you will someone will be like either OTKing or kind of controlling the field to an extent where there won't really be too many draw phases thereafter. And yeah, there's a lot of control here. Smashers, red tribute plus the Melfi getting the caddy for Penny for the following turn, and prosperity for any more disruption you need here.
I mean, Max was struggling to play through 1 bounce last turn, and now there is multiple bounces, a monster effect negate, and 2 smashers. So I'm really not seeing too much hope here for Max, to be honest.
Plenty of time left on the clock, so there doesn't need to be any sort of tactical...
Absolutely. So do we also grab ourselves an anti-spell, maybe?
Why not?
Why not?
3 of them.
1 of 3 or the Ash Blossom.
Keep them coming, he says, Matteo, but there's no more anti-spells. He just revealed all of them.
I mean, we know that Max has 3 monsters in hand, right?
Yeah, I think I might have liked Carrot even more than anti-spell, to be honest.
I would have liked the Ash Blossom.
But how about picking up Evenly Matched here for a turn? That could be a big card. I mean, he's not running it, I think, and that is the game. Yeah. So Matteo takes down game number 2 here with the Spright strategy, making it an even score between those 2 players. So who is it going to be for game 3, Belgium or Italy?
It's do you think it's surprising based on going first? You just sort of establish your field and then you can... Maybe you really need non-engine at that point to crack these fields.
Yep, that is true. If there are bounces or Book of Moons involved, it is really hard to get through it. If you have Silent Mining, it is also kind of an extender. You can search for a Weasel, you get something into the graveyard, you can trigger the Gazelle that way. But if you only have a play with a normal summon, it's kind of tough if your opponent just takes it away immediately.
Sure. I think Max is going to be quite disappointed considering he opened Ash and Imperm. You'd think maybe that should be enough going second, but it just wasn't, right?
But he got punished by one of the most popular cards in the entire game right now, which is Triple Tactics Talons. Like, everyone is on this card. That's why you kind of have to play around it. He couldn't do it there, and therefore he got punished for it. But now, one quick question. What do you guys think of Sprite's options against Gozen Match when that card is on the field? Because that card totally is in the side deck of Max. So
it's particularly bad in this situation because you can actually give your opponent the monster if you choose to not bounce it back with the Stalio. But I think fire might not be that. It probably is.
You know what? You can actually not even crash with the monster into the Salamangreat of Raging Fire because you have the Sanctuary effect that can just reduce the attack points of your monster to 0 for 1,000 life points.
That's actually insane. So probably we are going to see this card coming in. Looks like the only real side deck option that Max has. I mean, he has Droll and Lockbird as well, but do you really side that card in going first? I don't know. It was in there going second, which I understand.
It really helps against Spright anyways, right?
Yeah, but I mean, now you saw that there's not even Gamma Burst, because if there would have been Gamma Burst, he would have just searched it, right? Why not? So that kind of is a tell that he doesn't even run it.
I think you sided out going first.
Probably, I would agree, yeah. I mean, just Goes Match feels a lot better.
I think his main deck in general seems quite fit for this. You know, there's a lot of disruption, and while, you know, Spright does play through hand traps quite well, I think just with the Gozen Match plus backed up with a couple of hand traps should be enough.
Yeah, and there's one interesting hand trap which is not very popular overall right now, but it's super good for Spright actually, because he is on Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and you can just Ogre that Gigantic. That has been popular since the beginning of Spright days, and it's very good here in this matchup, so maybe we're going to see this in Game 3 for sure. I'm
trying to decide like what Ogre was for in the main deck. Because
probably not Spright, right?
Because I'm sure it's not Spright, but you know.
My friend Pearly?
Yeah, Pearly, I guess
seems
it's not
okay
too bad.
versus Pearly, yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, again, it's the whole story of a mid-range deck like this. You know, you have so many different disruptions. You play like quite a small engine, and then you have like 15 like hand traps and disruptions and non-engine defensive cards. If you pair 2 or 3 up together, a lot of decks can play through it.
Totally not. Especially not when there's also Salamangreat Rage and Raw waiting for you, so there's basically no more help. So
you want to tell us the combo again?
Yeah.
Of course. Normal Salamangreat of Fire. Search Gazelle.
Good start.
That's always a great start.
I think we can get it into Max's hands again. He's going to carefully explain and show us the combo once more, because he did very well so in game number 1. That was really impressive. And if he's not getting stopped here by Matteo this game, I think he's on a good way to maybe winning this one as well.
All right, let's head back to the table as our players have now finished siding up. Let's see who's going to take down this all-important game number 3.
Okay, there we have them. And it seems like the Belgian players are really taking over, right? Because last round we had Steven Jacobs and now we have Max, so
Can
Belgium
I just say
on the rise.
I just sorry to interrupt. That is an incredible hand I've seen here. Oh, okay. Maybe not so much anymore, but Salamangreat of Fire plus 2 disruptions. Very, very nice. Now the thing is, we do need some more names in the hand here. Let's see if he's drawn that all-important Gazelle. Recently put up to 3. Very consistent way to...
only the Bailings. Is there going to be more engine? Because he needs more engine here. Is there a way for him to extend?
He also has Thrust, which can search out a Rage, which is at least 1 pop. In this scenario, he also has other disruptions. The question is there anything else he can put up? Maybe just a Spinny?
Little Bailings pass. Everyone loves to see that, right?
Vesper Frost. Is there maybe another good Frost target in his deck?
Doesn't he play Talons?
Yeah, but he cannot activate it this turn
because
he only gets
doesn't
a
have a
chance to
monster.
set it.
Yeah, so it looks like he's just going to be able to set the Rage.
It is going to be the Rage, and that does not look very impressive, honestly.
No, not great. But you know, depending on the right destroy, it is really, really strong against Spright. Because, like I said, if you just hit that normal summon level 2, the only real way you have to extend is going to be the starter.
Totally.
The problem is, what are you going to do after that?
Yeah, there's also no follow-up, which is like Salamangreat is known for his follow-up.
Oh, Penny.
Okay, Penny, I think you do have to immediately hit this.
That's it could be a bait, but I think that this is a really good Rage here.
Yep, Max agrees. No more level 2 monsters on the field, only Bailings left. Does Matteo have a way to bring another monster onto the field?
Oh, this
really
looks like a trap card that is being
we're just setting and
here.
passing. Wow,
Catty in the end.
Okay.
But Catty is not really that good because Penny's in the graveyard. You have a target, which is the Nimble Beaver.
Okay, sure. I guess you can wait for next turn here and
my.
that's a circle off the top.
Oh my, that's the top deck of all times, and the crowd loves it. That is going to be any Salamangreat monster you like, so definitely the best card to draw in that situation.
And that is going to be Salamangreat Fire. We are doing the same thing once again.
And we have an Ash. Okay, okay, Imperm. Any further chains here?
this is preventing an OTK, which is really important, of course. However, you can go for a Splash Mage into a Heat Soul, at least.
Yeah.
Get a lot of advantage that way, especially with the just diverse Cyburst options available to the deck. That's okay. No, he's going to keep going with the Wolf here, it looks like.
Alright, you can add back the Circle or the Rage. Of course, Rage for Pop 2 is absolutely strong.
Rage is going to be really strong here because, again, as you saw last turn, it was just good enough to hit that level 2 normal summon. And only top deck here from Matteo really needs to see either something that puts 2 bodies on the field, so a combination of a normal summon plus a special or a starter here, but it's just not enough cards. 2 set. And passes back here.
Nothing at all from Matteo.
And that is going to search for another Circle. And we might actually see, Impermanence immediately on the Sunlight Wolf here.
Yeah, he tried to add back the Circle there, and that is not going to happen. But does Max have... Oh, look at that!
Oh, the charge! That is the spice that Max is running. He can now put back 2 Salamangreat monsters from the graveyard and special summon, or 2 fire monsters from the graveyard to the deck and special summon the Salamangreat of Fire, and that is the handshake. Salamangreat charge is winning this game. The perfect extender in this scenario.
Wow, what a game. Salamangreat really shining once again, really on top of competition. What do you think, guys? Is Salamangreat going to be a deck that we are going to have in our top cards for this event?
I think people are really excited.
Let me ask you,
I think people are really excited to see this strategy back again. And as you've seen, when it gets to go first and it draws the right combination of defense plus engine, it becomes really, really hard to contend with. And I just think that that was a perfect display of both decks doing what they do best. And you know, I think if perhaps Matteo won the coin flip, it could have been a different story potentially, right? It felt very formulaic in a way.
That is true. I mean, Max had in almost every game he had Ash and Impermanence.
It's a Salamangreat card.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Ash is one of the extenders.
Yeah, and Infinite Impermanence was in the structure deck, right? Oh no, wait, it was in the Cyber structure deck.
Ash was in the structure deck.
Yeah, true.
Exactly. It's the card that you mostly go into Mirage Stalio with because you are bricking, possibly. I mean, that's what happened to me back in the days, but we didn't have Salamangreat of Fire then.
Funnily enough, you can even, with the Salamangreat charge that we just saw, reborn the Ash Blossom, and then you have a level 3 monster for the Mirage Stalio. So that does work in the end as a Salamangreat and extender, basically.
Well, you know a little bit about the deck, and they did get a bunch of support, including a tuner monster and a synchro, but I don't think a lot of people are really playing that. How come? What do you see like as the shortcomings of that sort of synchro engine of the deck?
I could tell you if I had read the Synchro Monster. I think the tuner is Tiger. Yeah, and that is a rather good card, actually. I played it before. You can also special summon this by discarding a Salamangreat. So this is also a possible extender. If you don't have place, has the upside, on the contrary to Weasel, that you can just also special summon it if you don't have 2 Salamangreat monsters in the graveyard. You can just special summon it from scratch.
But let's not get overboard. I mean, they have just returned to the Fusion engine with the Violet Chimera and the extra deck, so let's keep it chill. Maybe at some point they're also going to go into the ritual part or into the synchro part.
It is an archetype that has access to every summoning type. That's we just need Pendulum, I suppose, before we forget about that. So I think our players are now ready for an interview. We're going to hear from Max himself to discuss his matchup with Ed, if you can take it away.
Thanks very much, Nadir. I am here with Max, who's just won that round 3 feature match. Just before we got into this interview, you said salads in 2023. So Salamangreat, talk to us about your decision, because recently you had some support and things. How are you feeling about it?
I like the support. Salamangreat of Fire is a really good card. It locks you into fires, but that does not matter when you go with the Fire OTK. And I was on the fence of playing it first for this YCS, and then the ban list came out, Gazelle was at 3, and the biggest problem, Cashtero, was gone. So, YOLO.
God, I haven't heard that for a while. So how did you find Gazelle coming back affecting the support and the new deck?
Gazelle coming back actually makes you less, how do you say it? Reliant on, no, not reliant, but you don't lose to hand traps that often. Because they can negate your first place, and then you have Gazelle in hand. So just continue. And then it doesn't matter where you hand trapped.
Okay, fantastic. Let's go through what we saw some of this, because the first game 1 was a pretty good showcase of what Salamangreat has to offer. A great starting field. Matteo kind of struggled to play through it. Ash Blossom, he basically just ended up sort of going through. So talk to us about what you're thinking in game 1.
Game one, I'm like an entire handful of hand traps and like the one starter, and I'm just, well, I hope he has nothing. And because I know with one fire you can go relink to link 4, and you definitely have one counter trap. So with the counter trap, well, because I had spinning as well, right? Yeah. Game one? Okay, yeah, then I have full combo. That is the double traps with follow-up and backup from hand traps. It's a really hard board to go through.
It certainly is. And then we get into game 2. There was the interesting interaction with the negation of imperm with the Book of Moon on Gigantic Spright. So talk to us about what you're thinking when you see these kind of things, these moments happen.
Well, I was guessing either he had a Book of Moon or triple tactics. So I had to guess, will I ash this or will I imperm this? And I had to read wrong. Okay. So that was that.
You had to take a gamble.
Yeah, I had to take a gamble there because even he had the starter. So I know if I can Book of Moon him, he doesn't have Book of Moon, I can stop him there, then ash the starter, then he has no interruptions on his board. But he had the Book of Moon, so I couldn't go through that anymore.
Sure, and then obviously Spright did a pretty good job dominating that game, but then we got into game 3. You ashed the normal you got ashed on the normal summon of fire, so you ended on Balinks and Rage, which is quite a vulnerable point to be in as long as they have something to do. But Matteo didn't have any cards to play through those disruptions. He didn't have engine. So at that point, did you know that you were pretty much securing game 3?
I knew with, again, the Ash in hand and with the Rage, if I can Rage his normal summon, Spright does not have a lot to continue on there. They need another level 2 on board. So if I just, and also his normal summon was like the Melfi, and then you know his hand is like not that great, so I can just Rage that. If I just know if I can keep my monster on board, and in Ash in hand, I can just summon Ash and go into Sunlight Wolf like that. Okay. Because that's also just a fire monster. So even if I didn't draw like the fire monster I drew with the extender, I kept Ash and normal summon Ash, go Sunlight Wolf, grab Rage back, or just square one again.
Okay, you had it all basically in the bag, so congratulations. So is there a deck that you're worried about going up against over these next few Swiss rounds with Salamangreat?
Everything with Shifter.
Okay, so could be anything. So best of luck in the rest of your Swiss rounds. I hope it goes well for you. We'll see how Salads do in 2023, as you said. Congratulations again. Right.